first app we're going to look at is a pretty cool mobile app that they did a lot of building of not only JavaScript code in this, but Swift code and all sorts of other things. There was Python in there at some point. Um, so yeah, would you tell us what all the buzz is about, or rather, would you tell us what all the hum is about?
Hi, my name is Olivia Oddo, and this is my teammate, June Kang. And our other teammates who are not able to join us today are Brian and Max. And together we created an application called Humm. Humm is an iOS application that allows users to share playlists across music streaming platforms. Our application currently supports the conversion of Apple Music to Spotify and vice versa. My sister and her best friend Emily are always sharing their music. However, Emily has Apple Music and Elena has Spotify. So what they currently do is screenshot their list of songs and message it to one another. And then they have to go through their music streaming service and search for each song and add it manually to a playlist. But if Emily and Elena were to use Humm, they would log into our app. They would then connect their music streaming service, which would import all of their playlists into our app. They would then be able to add each other as friends and share individual playlists with one another. They would then receive a pending playlist request, which they could, once they accept, it will download the playlist to their music streaming service. And the shared playlist will show up in our app under the shared playlist view, as well as on their Apple Music or Spotify accounts. We originally wanted to develop a web application for Humm, but after conducting research, we found that the only way to create a playlist on an Apple Music user's account was to use Apple's Music Kit. And Music Kit came out in June of this year and can only be used on iOS. And since it is so new and can only be used with Xcode Beta 9 and Swift 4, we were left with little resources online. So we had to figure a lot of things out on our own. So we ended up creating Swift classes and methods. We then bridged those classes to Objective-C, which we then exposed those classes to React Native as native modules. And then we were able to execute the Swift methods from JavaScript. And now June will go into more depth about the technologies behind Humm.
Thank you, Olivia. Yeah, let's talk about the technologies we use and the technical diagrams behind Humm. In order to make a native iOS mobile app with the JavaScript, we use React Native for the front end. For the back end, we use Firebase real-time database, Firebase cloud functions, and authentication. And of course, these two core Swift SDKs, Apple Music Kit and Spotify SDK. So let's walk through how data flow through these technologies. So Emily connects to Apple Music. Behind the scenes, we have a JavaScript function that executes a Swift method that ensure the authentication with Apple Music. And then we execute another Swift method that queries and receives her playlist from Apple Music. Elena connects to Spotify in a similar way. You have to get her user token from using Spotify SDK, and then with that user token, we use Spotify API to get her playlist. Once received, we save all those playlists into our Firebase database, which forced us to consider how we message this data as Firebase database store data as JSON. So these two SDKs were really hard for us. Was very difficult to use for us to put everything together in our mobile application. Now, let's walk through sharing playlists between these two platforms. So Elena selects a Spotify playlist and shares it with Emily. Once shared, the playlist ID gets put into Emily's pending playlist table in Firebase database, and then when after Emily accepts the pending playlist request, we transfer that playlist ID um, into playlist accepted playlist table, and then we then search our Firebase, query our Firebase data for that playlist, sending all those each of the songs to Cloud Functions, and which searches our table of songs for that Apple Music equivalent. If we have it, we send the Apple Music ID for that song. If we don't have it, we query the iTunes API to retrieve the song's Apple Music ID. So implemented a serverless architecture here so that we didn't have to worry about scalability or maintaining high CPU or memory. Also, paying for the exact amount of the resources we need is a huge economic win for us. So we're working on our working through progress to deploy our Humm app to Apple App Store, so you can use it soon. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
That was incredible. I think, I didn't catch it in the previous rehearsal, but that is like, to me, something that's like so beautiful that Apple and Spotify will never allow it, because what else do they have to defend besides their playlist? Like, that's like the thing that's most sticky, right? So I'm curious to see the battle that they'll go through putting into the Play Store or the Apple Store, because it's a really incredible technology, but I have a sense that Apple and Spotify won't like it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that people, platforms really like to, build walls around themselves like that to convince everyone to buy subscriptions to both services rather than be able to share easily with each other. And so, we see what happened to BBM, right? So, okay, for some reference, that was BlackBerry's messenger service that didn't let you message.
Yeah, that blank look, I didn't even remember.
I know, even I was like, if Omri doesn't know this, then I should probably explain.
And so they used React Native, and they wrote Swift modules to wrap Apple's new music kit.
Yes.
That's quite a polyglot accomplishment. Is it something that did they have Swift experience coming in, or?
No.
Okay, wow. Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited. We've never been sued by Apple, and I don't. So, but
Yeah,
I'm
I've been
curious.
sued by a few others, but Apple still,
Apple, Tim Cook and I are still good. So we'll see what happens when this gets put into the App Store. But that's a great project. Vote for that project. If you want to vote to get that app into the App Store, like the post, like this pinned comment, and we'll see what happens.